Welcome. Hope everyone's doing well. This question here is for the entire group, I guess whoever wants to answer. The story has a lot of elements. There's destiny, there's sci-fi, there's a bit of a religious touch with good and evil, etc. What about it did you enjoy most and or least?
I enjoyed Colin Farrell.
I was partial to Eva Marie Saint as well.
Write that down.
Akiva?
I enjoyed Colin Farrell and Eva.
2-1. I enjoyed Colin Farrell.
Jessica?
Seriously.
I just felt like I'd won a competition. To be no, it was incredible.
It's Winter's Tale starts off, always has, as this sort of very elusive genre of magical realism, which is, very much not something we do typically as Americans, either in film or movies. It's the coexistence of, serious dramatic scenes and a flying white horse. And that is either delightful to you or aversive. To me, it has always been something remarkable. It divided people and drew people in from the first moment the book was published all the way through this object. For me, what it finally became, I think, is the movie is kind of a secret message. It's kind of a decoder ring. It's a wink and a nod to people who have had loss. And the need to believe in magic when you have. And that's what drew me to it.
Right over here.
Colin, the rest of the cast, do you think love is sometimes overrated and that's why we need Valentine's Day to remind us of it?
It sure isn't.
Not overrated? No, I mean, possibly underrated, the importance of it and how its prevalence in a single person's life or in the life of a shared community can make incredible changes and can promote the idea of peace and harmony within a society or within a person's individual existence. I think love is all you need is. I think. No, I mean it really is. It has to be the one thing. It seems that defines us as human beings: our ability to care for each other, our ability to demonstrate through acts of compassion a concern for your fellow man. Valentine's Day, I don't even know what that's about. Really, I mean, it should, it's an excuse for, and I think it's whatever you make it. Some people put up a Christmas tree and other people don't. It's whatever you make it. I don't think there's anything wrong with flowers and chocolate-covered maraschino cherries, and but it'd be nice if it didn't take such a kind of publicly promoted or commercially promoted holiday for people to extend themselves in gestures of love. But I think love is really what makes it all spin,
Jennifer, what about you?
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, I haven't, in my opinion, there's nothing that I've experienced that's more powerful and magical than love. And I think, in this film, love is capable of bending time and materially shaping the physical universe. And I think that that's really special.
Eva, you seem to want to jump in on this love thing.
Eva Marie.
Oh, we do say Eva Marie. Okay.
Yes. Let's just get that straight.
Thank you.
She's so demanding. No, I think love. I've been married almost 63 years.
What do you know about love?
To the love of my life.
Next.
Boy, if I don't know it by now, I never will. Right. And that's kept me really going in my life, plus my children and our grandchildren. And I don't know how I would have gotten through this life without someone to really love me, and I love them, him and them. And it's forgiving. Love is very forgiving to one another and your friends, and it's a powerful, powerful emotion, and it's my favorite emotion in life. Now, Russ, write that down and read it and remember
Call it a day.
Oh, my. Okay, next question.
Colin, you jumped back and forth between centuries quite often. Was that confusing?
Tiring.
Yeah, right. And confusing? Like, how did you remind yourself of what century you were in?
If I was wearing the wig, I was contemporary. And yeah. No, it was all very clearly demarked in the script, and it was all very clearly demarked in the shooting of the film. The later Peter Lake is somebody who exists very uncomfortably in the present. It's an uncomfortable present. Each day is kind of devoid of meaning because it's a repetition of the day before, which he can't remember. I think it's almost like a Groundhog Day. He goes to bed at night and he wakes up the next day, and it's the beginning of a life that he has no reference point for, has no idea of what his origin is. And we as human beings, we judge ourselves in our present based on our own origin stories, on where we grew up, where we were born, what our family was like, how our cultural references informs our personalities. So it was interesting. It was fun. But it was certainly a very much more comfortable and very much more grounded Peter at the beginning of the story, as flighty as he seemed at the beginning of the story, because as much as he had a battle, as much as he had a kind of an internal rub based on his upbringing and his orphan status and his disassociation from any sense of family until he meets Beverly and her family, the Penns, he's okay in his discomfort. But it's just later on in life when he is consumed by this sense of loss, but he has no idea where the loss comes from, that he experiences this kind of profound discomfort that is agitating more than anything else and disturbing more than anything else. Thank you.
Hi, this is a question for Akiva. I'm wondering, what was the process like to decide what to omit from the novel? And what films do you think would make a great double feature with Winter's Tale? Anyone else could answer that as well.
Fright Night? Not yours. Adaptation is always the same process for me, which is it's some version of throwing the book at the wall and seeing what pages fall out. It is trying to imagine, remember the story, read it, put it down, and then write sort of an outline without the book in front of you, with some hope that what you like about it will be filtered and distilled out through your memory, and that will be similar to what other people like about it. But you can never tell. So for me, adaptation is just sort of using my own memory and imagination as a template, and trying to distill what is important to me out of an object. This one was easier than it appears to be because there are 300 or so pages in the middle of the object dedicated to a character named Hardesty Marietta, who existed in one draft in an encounter with Jenny's character from the very beginning and never made it past the first draft. And so really the book was smaller than it might seem to be when it came to adaptation. And what would make a nice double feature with this? Well, I don't know. What would make a Downton Abbey marathon, I guess?
Cheers.
Sure. Any residuals are good. Jenny and I'll take them.
Eva Marie?
I just want to say that I believe the love scene between this talented lady, Jessica, and Colin is just one of the most beautifully done and so tastefully done, Akiva. It left something to the imagination, and I find in love scenes today everything, they try to show everything, and it's not the real thing anyway. That was so beautifully done. It brings tears to my eyes, Akiva. I don't know. I'll never forget your profile with the kiss and Colin and I wanted to be there.
Would have been a whole different movie.
No, in your place.
These are on, right?
What?
These are on, right? Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Jessica, how was that, filming that scene with Colin?
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful moment. I think that I suppose they're kind of aware of, finding the comedy within something and the naivety and the joy of it, and a really special moment, but one that is, I suppose, for the both of them is new in the sense that it's just true love of its highest sense, and has I suppose for Beverly especially, is something that she never, ever, ever thought would happen. Someone to love her who's not, asked to, like a family member or something. She's like found real, true love from a stranger, and it's become something beautiful. So,
personally, ever thought that might happen on working with him?
No.
But let me disabuse you all of something. Love scenes are the most horrible thing you can ever ask actors to do. I mean, just try to take a moment. Now take off your clothes. No, but here. No, really. No, really. So, love scenes are the hardest thing in the world. And if you enjoy them, that's wonderful, because nobody making them sits there and goes, let's do that again tomorrow.
Okay, right over there.
I don't know that I agree. I really don't. Maybe that's awfully sleazy and cheap of me, but it's not that I get personal kicks or gratification from them, but I do think that human touch, in whatever form it comes in, as long as that form is one that is mutually compassionate and respectful, is a really gorgeous thing. So while it is an atmosphere of absolute artifice, and it's not romantic, and it's never going to be sexy, if the two people who are involved in it are on the same page and taking care of each other, there are worse days at the office, I find.
Akiva, in doing this film, I know you adapted it, but it was so many different areas of touching on science, if you will. And you spoke about the stars, and you spoke about the light, and it didn't actually give any final answer to any of that. Was that some of your input on it? I mean, how did that come about? Because I'm not familiar with the book.
The mythology of it is it's some marriage between me and Mark Helprin, who wrote the novel. Mark's book is the cosmology of Mark's book is very, very, very complex, even more complex than the movies. I tried to distill it down to some extent. Part of what is really clear in Mark's book is the notion of light and its grammar as part of magic, as something transformative. The idea that light is operating sort of all the time in ways that we can't see, that there is more to the world, there is a world behind the world. And so what we tried to do with the movie is talk about it, but also show it. So there's that sort of scene where, when Jess, playing Beverly, says, the sicker I become, the more I can see that everything is connected by light. We jump up and just connect stuff by light. I mean, it's not particularly subtle, but quite pretty. And that's the use of flares. And what we sort of did is we made believe that the camera could see magic, even when the characters, for the most part, couldn't. And that gave us a little bit of an organizing principle to use light when something magical occurs. So even if you're not noticing it when Russell is lurching forward, or Will is morphing, or these guys are jumping, we brought out, these are all sort of digital anamorphic flares that are used to sort of create the idea of the magic flaring out the camera.
As opposed to seeing energy, is actually using light.
Yeah.
Right over there.
The horse that I worked with was beautiful. He's a really nice character, because horses are people too, and they differ in the way they carry themselves through the world, and the way they interact with each other, and the way they interact with people. And I had a very understanding and very kind horse named Listo. I think there was two horses, you're right, but the other one was kind of more like a relief pitcher, who came on when Listo was tired or agitated, which you would be having me on your back for 8 hours a day, inevitably. But he was a wonderful, wonderful beast. It was the first time I flew on a horse, which wasn't as scary as it would seem. No altitude sickness or fear of heights involved, because I was actually in a green scene studio sitting on a barrel, which was one of the more mortifying experiences. And I'd take, way after I'd choose a love scene, I would choose to shoot flying on a horse. But he was gorgeous. I love working with horses. I mean, people say you shouldn't work with animals and children or children's, and that's wrong. You must only work with children because you only work 8 hours a day. and I love working with animals. Animals have an honesty that human beings reach to find in their lives at the best of times. I had a great time.
The casting of this movie is more than anything else in my career a function of sort of unbridled affection. We didn't have the we didn't have the money to make the movie. Warner Brothers looked at it and budgeted it and said, it's $80 million on a good day. Here's half of it. And I said, thank you, because that's what you do when somebody gives you even half of what you need to make the thing that you love the most. So everyone at this table did it for love or kindness or friendship or belief in some idea of the way the world works and magic inside the world. So the casting process was entirely that, from people that I've known well for a long time to people who I've known and wanted to work with for a long time to heroes to unbelievable brand new pieces of talent. I mean, it's been amazing. And Will's a friend, and I needed the devil. And I said, what do you think? And he said, sure. And yes, we all, Hollywood's about that big, which is the good and bad news. So yes, I knew that Russell and Jenny were in fact making a movie, and actually went horrifically from the Noah set to our set, and we were shooting here, and Noah was shooting here, and Sandy was raging here. So it was actually a very complicated time for the city, and secondarily, obviously, for movies trying to manage to have two actors in two different movies. But, friendship and alcohol prevailed, and we made it through.
Hello. I had the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Goldsman earlier about my question, and one of the things that I find really amazing about the film is that it is unabashedly a fairy tale, and it is not one for children. And I wondered, in the opinion of anyone who would like to answer, what do we get too old for fairy tales? And if not, what is their allure? Why are they necessary for us as adults to see?
I'll jump in first. I agree. I think this is a fairy tale for grown-ups, and I think it is very pointedly a fairy tale for grown-ups, and that's, I think, what we set out to do. And it's an interesting object because the first 2/3 is a fairy tale for kids, and there has always been in my life in the development of this object those people who say, well, can't it just be over then? The idea that even though it doesn't turn out the way the storybook promised, there's a story behind it all that we could find. Siri. And Siri agrees.
Siri has a question, right? Yeah, any other answers from that, Eva Marie, about fairy tales? Do we need fairy tales as grown-ups?
Well, yes, I think so. I think Akiva, you said it so really beautifully, because everybody has their own life and things that they think about and that are important in their lives. But I think somehow, I mean, if somebody read to you as a child, and hopefully everyone who was read to, please raise your hand. See what I mean? So it's going to be forever the fairy tale. I mean, it's there, and you see the movie, and you forget everything that's outside. And when I saw them, I just had to sit there for a minute before I went and that expression, something hits the fan when you get back to real living and the world outside. And it was just a few hours of just thinking about life and the things that happen, and that stars are important. I flew here from L.A., and the clouds were so beautiful, and I thought of you, Akiva. I mean, who makes those clouds? Who changes those clouds? Now, I know air current and all that. Could be something else. and I just love thinking about that, and that's why I really love the movie, and I want to thank Akiva for it.
Right over there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Zay. This movie makes a point of saying that every person has a miracle. Right? Have any of you ever witnessed something or done something that you would construe as, wow, a miracle? I can't explain it any other way.
Well, I think if you meet the right person in life and you fall in love, that is a miracle. My husband saw me on the subway. I mean, that is a miracle. Yeah, well, that's another story. That's another movie, Akiva.
Done.
Jennifer?
Now, is that not a miracle? Two people from... Well, how else can you explain it? There's so many things. I mean, your children, they're miracles. Your grandchildren, they are miracles. But that's my thought.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a flying horse or anything like that in my real life, but I have seen things much akin to what Eva Marie is saying that are miraculous to me, whether or not they would be qualified as bona fide miracles. I mean, it sounds like a horrible cliche, but yes, I have 3 children. They're each miracles. To me.
Hi. Colin, you've spoken in the past about your tremendous regard for screen legends like Peter O'Toole and Liz Taylor. What was it like working with Eva Marie Saint? I mean, that had to be amazing. And Eva Marie, what enticed you to do this project? Like, what really grabbed you when you saw the script?
Let Colin answer first.
I'll answer your question, and then working with Eva Marie Saint was a dream. I had one of the most incredible periods of the last 15 years on a film set that I had with her, and I've been aware of her work since I was in my early teens, which is not that long ago.
No, it is.
So is. But I love working with actors who are just slightly older than me, but have a greater kind of depth of history with regards to life in film. And working with Eva Marie Saint, as working with Christopher Plummer, I think were 2 of my favorite experiences. She's a wonderful actress, but more importantly, always the cart that should go before the horse is the human being and how you find them as a person. And I just adore the bones of her. And I was really spoiled to be able to spend time with her on a set, and it'll stay with me all my days, which I hope are plentiful.
Colin and I became lovers.
In his mind. Finish the thought.
You know Hollywood, you know actors. I love playing the older woman because I'm old and I'm still working, but she's older than I am in the movie, 100 and something, but she's still working at the paper, and I think that was such a interesting idea for me to show women still working, still dressing nicely, and so forth. And I just love the scene where she sees Colin, when she sees Peter, and somebody said, "How did you know? To put your arms out like little Willa did." How did I know? I don't know. I didn't see those scenes or direct. My director, Akiva, he said, "Just put your arms out." I didn't know that. How was I supposed to know? I didn't see the rushes, right? But it's so interesting, Akiva, so many people mentioned that yesterday.
Mr. Goldsman, you're asking for us to take a willing suspension of disbelief of a tremendous level, because it is magic realism. And I'm wondering if in forming the basis for this film, you just decided to do it without thought of the cynicism of the world that we seem to live in. And then the related question for the actors is making a magic realism film. Is it different in terms of your approach to your characters and the daily grind of acting when you think of that, or do you ignore that completely and actually act as if this was absolutely real? So maybe Mr. Goldsman's first. So.
I I love the novel, which is not cynical, and I love entertainment that is not cynical. I choose not to be cynical. I'll go toe-to-toe with anyone in the room over reasons to be cynical. So it's a choice. And for me, a worthwhile one, and a worthwhile communication, because the other is too easy. There are too many reasons, I think, to give up or to not care. It's my choice. I don't say it's right or wrong, but it's mine to then convey cynical ideas would be not true for me. Doesn't mean I don't watch them or like them. Doesn't mean that I can't be as old and tired and begrudging of the universe as anybody at the end of a long day. But I try to practice the belief that there is reasonableness and meaning. Some days it's a lot harder than others, but I'd like that messaging to be in what I do. It kind of always has been. And it's not that life has given me less reasons to be cynical. It gives me more. But I choose to push back. That's just me.
And the performances, do they change in a magic realism film versus, say, a hyper-realistic, drama?
I mean, the one of the cruxes and the bedrocks of this film is the presence of a love that defies linear time, and the kind of eternal existence of something that is felt but can't be defined by thought, and poets are still trying to do it centuries later through language, and some of them get close, but love will never be defined in a quotidian way or an empirical way where it can be judged or measured. Or so with that in mind, any of the more magical elements to the film, any of the more fantastical elements, whether it's a flying horse or time bending over on itself and someone existing for 100 years and not aging, were things that you became a subject of, and they were almost, I think, almost easier to write off as awe-inspiring events than, I mean, the whole depth of the love between Peter and Beverly is the most magical and fantastical element of the whole film. It's much more magical and much more fantastical even, and yet beautifully and gratefully much more possible than a flying horse. So not really so much. The whole script was kind of and the story seemed like this exercise in the defiance of disbelief in things happening in a person's life that they never thought or comprehended could happen. Peter wasn't looking for love, and all of a sudden this world opens up to him, and the world of his former existence and the self-preservation and the kind of defensive energy with which he had to carry himself through life just to survive begins to crumble and fade away, and this path of love and gentility and light and true interconnectedness presents itself. So that was, for me, the most magical and fantastical element of the film.
Right over there.
Hi, I actually have two questions. My first question is for Jennifer.
Greedy.
I want to know everything. In the movie, your character was a parent. What process did that character need to go through to leave the belief in science and now switch over to the belief in faith and follow this person, this stranger, and believe that he can do something that no one else has done? And my second question is for all the cast members. The movie is based on a winter tale and set in a winter setting, which was beautiful. But did you guys have to work in a winter setting, and how did you deal with that?
I think that there's, the conceit of this movie is that the magic exists in this world, in this very real world, and right now. And I think that Virginia is somehow, I think there's something inherent in her that's an inherent openness to that possibility that magic might exist. And I think that when she first sees Peter, something resonates with her. But on top of that, I think that is compounded by her position in life that she unfortunately finds herself in. And she has a daughter who is terminally ill, and she's been told by everyone that there's no hope. And so she's kind of reined in that. She's sort of reined that in. She's tried to rein that in and tried to process that. Tried to process fathoming the possibility that there could be no hope. And I think it's terrifying for her when she meets him, and he's saying, "Trust me, give me a chance." And I think a lot of things go through her very, very quickly. But I think the glimmer of a possibility that it could be true, absolutely. She's so desperate to save her girl. She would absolutely throw herself off a roof with a perfect stranger on a flying horse, just in case it could have been true.
Wintry conditions? Did you have to shoot in the cold and with snow?
Jessica?
Yeah.
Barefooted wonder.
Yes.
And in the nude?
Yeah, no, we shot in New York in the winter and in the snow. Sensibly, everyone else is in winter coats and furs and thick woolen jackets and everything. And my character, because she's constantly warm from consumption, she is in summer dresses and bare feet. But yeah, you just have to do it. But some of the snow was fake, maybe sometimes when I had bare feet, maybe.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
I think actors, even if it's kind of a fairy tale, you must be real. Somebody asked about that. I think as an actor, you find the things that for the character, and you're just always as real as you can be when you're thinking about the character, what you want to bring to the character. Even though it's this kind of movie, in order to have this kind of movie, I think you have to be so honest and real. And for instance, I'll just never forget that love scene. It was beautiful.
So we have time for one more question. So who has right back here?
Hi, I'm Geraldine Estevez for Latin Trends. I have two questions. Reading me. Mr. Goldsman, I was wondering, towards the end of the film, we hear Beverly say that no one person's life is more important than the others. And I was wondering, did you at any point consider not including that and simply leaving that for the viewer's interpretation? And my second question is for the cast. You all did an amazing job, and I found myself cheering on for Peter the Thief as well as Little Willa. I loved all of your characters, and I wanted to know, in what ways can you relate to your characters?
But what I loved about the book is we're all worth saving, and that you don't have to be special for the universe to take care of you, and that it is taking care of you even when you can't see it.
Since we're kind of short on time, if you want to how about just that one pitch of your character? What did you get from your character in that one line?
Colin will.
Jessica?
I suppose just the idea of Beverly being someone who has accepted everything that will come and will come quickly and is alive but not living. At the end of her life, she ends up living more than some of us are ever lucky enough to live, and she sees things in such a beautiful way and is incredibly brave.
That was beautiful.
Jennifer, let's do it.
I'm terrible at pitches, really bad. I don't know. I mean, in response to the question about what I relate to in my character, I suppose, my character is a link for Peter Lake to his past and to his own destiny. But in her own right, she is first and foremost a mother, and I think that's what really defines her, as her love for her daughter. And so I suppose that is what I recognize most in her.
Colin gets the last word.
He always does.
I was thinking that I'm okay. I think it just kind of solidified a suspicion I already had that I think I'm okay with life being defined more by mystery than by certainty, because certainty has done nothing but get me in a lot of trouble in my life. My own certainty and my own ideals and my own attachments, and I'm okay, you know, the older I get, reaching and hoping and aspiring to know less and less and less.